Good evening and welcome to our Maundy service. This week is Passion Week and we have been celebrating Easter. Hopefully every single day you've been doing something, either prayer or devotions, and maybe you've caught the Easter pack which we delivered to some households in Lincoln on Wednesday. And if not, you can download a digital copy in the description below. It's on Maundy Thursday that we remember the Last Supper and those moments where Jesus washed the disciples' feet, showing one of the greatest acts of love and servanthood. And also we know that the coming days we're remembering the death and resurrection of Jesus. But now we turn our attention to those moments on the night of the Last Supper.
I still remember that evening. It was such a beautiful evening as we made our way to the upper room we had rented. We all were so eager to spend time with him. As we set the table, placed the unleavened bread, figs, olives, and wine, we sat down, some reclining, some upright. The room was dimly lit but warm. We all talked about all we had seen him do, the miracles, the crowds. It was like a new way of life for us, a new beginning. Then he broke our conversation and laughter with these words. You do not understand how much I have looked forward to eating this Passover with you. It is the last one I will eat until we all eat it together in the kingdom of God. And then he took the bread and broke it, saying, "This is my body broken for you. Eat it in my memory." And he did the same with the wine. "This is my blood poured out for you." I was silent. We all were. I didn't understand what he meant, his body and blood. For some reason, I had a strange feeling inside me, almost like being alone, being scared. And for the first time in his company, I felt afraid. Little did I know what he was about to do.
Distance, leaning over this olive tree. He was weeping. It looked like it almost carried him. He kept looking up at the sky and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could tell that he was speaking to someone. Watching this, I fell asleep, but then he came and woke me up saying, "Pray so that you will not resist temptation." Pray? Pray about what? My mind was blank. And then Judas showed up with these guards and men with torches, and I couldn't see their faces, but I knew that something wasn't right. Judas went up to him and he hugged him and kissed him, and "You would betray me with a kiss." That's what he said. Betrayed by a kiss. We all ran as they grabbed him, dragged him, shouting at him, calling him names. Our only defense was the darkness around us. As we ran, as we disappeared into the garden, I could hear my heart racing. What now? What now?
I don't know what happened to me. I denied him. Just a few hours ago I said to him, I will die for you. And then this woman comes up to me in front of the temple guards telling them I was with him. And I said I wasn't. I said I don't even know him. I walked with him. I ate with him. I saw everything he did. He even said I would deny him.
Finally, we put an end to this charade. Such a troublemaker. He turned our temple upside down, upsetting our traditions, calling us vipers, whitewashed tombs. Ha! Well, we showed him. I mean, who does he think he is? The Messiah? Is that the way the Lord Almighty wants to reveal his Messiah? A carpenter from Nazareth? We were just in time to stop his antics before the Romans stopped our sacred temple duties. He's Pilate's problem now.
Was it wrong of us to drag him away in the early hours of the morning? It was. And to just accuse him of giving hope to our nation. What was wrong with his teachings? He spoke truth, calling God his Father as though he knew him personally. We did him wrong. We broke our own laws by judging him in secret. A fellow Jew and brother. This trial was not right. It was a mockery. I fear an innocent man has been condemned to die.
Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Maundy Thursday, and like millions and millions of Christians all over the world, we are taking a few moments this evening to look back, to reflect, to remember what happened during the Last Supper. And it's my job to take a bit of a look at that and then just share a couple of thoughts with you before we then later go on to have our Zoom call where we'll be taking communion together. The Last Supper in Matthew 26 reads a little something like this. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for the Passover supper?" "As you go into the city," he told them, "you will see a certain man. Tell him, the teacher says, my time has come, and I will eat Passover meal with my disciples at your house." So the disciples did as Jesus told them and prepared the Passover supper. When it was evening, Jesus sat down at the table with the 12 disciples, and while they were eating, he said, "The truth is, one of you will betray me." Greatly distressed, one by one, they began to ask him, "I'm not the one, am I, Lord?" He replied, "One of you who is eating with me now will betray me. For I, the Son of Man, must die, as the scriptures declared long ago. But how terrible it will be for my betrayer. Far better for him never to have been born." Judas, the one who would betray him, also asked, "Teacher, I'm not the one, am I?" And Jesus told him, "You have said it yourself." As they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread and asked God's blessing on it. Then he broke it into pieces and gave it to the disciples, saying, "Take it and eat it, for this is my body." And he took the cup of wine and he gave thanks to God for it. He gave it to them and he said, "Each of you drink from it, for this is my blood, which seals the covenant between God and his people. It is pouring out to forgive the sins of many. Mark my words, I will not drink wine again until the day I drink it new with you in the Father's kingdom." Then they sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. And we're going to stop there for now. Interesting that the Last Supper, we now call the Last Supper, but at the time, obviously, the disciples didn't know what they were getting themselves into. According to the disciples at the time, they were doing what they did most years. In fact, every year they would celebrate this feast of Passover. This time they remember that God has delivered them into freedom and out of slavery. Interesting, isn't it, the parallel there between the fact that we also take part in a supper in terms of communion, and we too remember exactly what God has delivered us from through Jesus and what he did. There's a couple of words that really struck me as I was reading through this again in preparation. And it's right back there in verse 22 of chapter 26. And it's just a couple of words that just struck me. And it's this: greatly distressed. The disciples were greatly distressed. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I probably would have felt the same. I think I would have felt the same if I'd have spent so much time with the Messiah, the promised one, the person that my people had been waiting for generations and generations. You know, the guy that we've been hanging out with, we've been praying with, and we've been talking with, and we've been learning from. The guy who had healed people who were blind, he made them see. The guy who fed thousands of people from a couple of packed lunches. The guy who raised people from the dead. The guy who cast out demons. What an amazing time to have lived through. What an amazing thing to have witnessed and to have seen. Yet all of a sudden, after all of that, after all of these shows of the power of God through his son Jesus, just a sideswipe. What do you mean someone is going to betray you? It must have been absolutely heartbreaking. It wasn't part of their plan. It wasn't part of where they thought Jesus was going to lead them. It wasn't part of what they thought Jesus was going to do next. And isn't it interesting that very often when something happens outside of our plan, outside of where we think God is leading us, it kind of blindsides us, doesn't it? And we can sometimes struggle with that. I know I have. When I think things are going one way and something happens suddenly and takes a different turn, I very often ask myself, where is God in this? Thankfully, we have the New Testament to look back on. You know, we can see through this exactly where God was through the whole thing. But the disciples didn't have that. They had this current situation that we're in and they didn't know what to do about it. I wonder if you and I would have handled it differently. You know, Peter was there in the Garden of Gethsemane, wasn't he, when Jesus was arrested after being betrayed by Judas, and he took out his sword and tried to take the ear off one of the servants. Wow, I can't say I wouldn't have done that. I can't say I wouldn't have run away. I couldn't say whether I would have denied Jesus 3 times. And I don't suppose any of us could. None of us know how we're going to act in a situation until we are in the middle of that very situation. I want to encourage you today that whatever situation you find yourselves in, if you have been blindsided recently, like I know many have, God is still there. Jesus is still listening. The Holy Spirit is still your comforter. You may be going through life just in an amazing way at the moment. Everything may be going great for you. Your job's going well. Your finances are great. The family are all happy and healthy. And, you know, that's amazing. And we celebrate with you. The Bible tells us to celebrate all the good stuff, but also to remember to cry and weep with those who are mourning. And I know at the moment there are many people also mourning. They may be mourning the loss of a job. They may be mourning a loss of a loved one. They may be mourning the loss of a lifestyle and the things that they used to really enjoy doing. Let's hope that we can get back to some of that stuff very, very soon. But I want you to remember that Jesus is in the midst of all of that. Remember, we have all the tools we need to live a life full of godliness. All the tools we need. Even when we are sideswiped by something, even when something tries to knock us off course, God has got it all in hand. The disciples must have felt like their whole world was knocked off course. But little did they know that God had it all in hand. God's plan was kind of midst being put into action. But it's difficult to see that, isn't it, when you're in the middle of that problem or issue at the time. I just want to just encourage you that whatever you're in the middle of, God's got it. Whatever you are suffering with, whether that be physical suffering, emotional, spiritual suffering, whether that be a financial difficulty, God has got it all in hand. All in hand. Listen, have a great time celebrating communion together. It is a celebration. It's a time of remembering. It's a time of just looking back at what Jesus has done for us. And remember, God knows the plan from the beginning to the end. He knows that you are incredible. He's got an awesome plan for you to grasp a hold of and to take your part in. And I want to encourage you to do that and reflect over that this Easter. What is it that I can do to make sure that I am part of God's great plan, not only for my life, but for those of the people around me? Take care and be blessed.
Thank you, Alex, for those amazing words. Afterwards, we've got our Encounter Zoom where we're going to be taking communion, some time of prayer and worship at 8 p.m. Details are on Church Suite. If not, just drop us a message and we'll get that link over to you. Tomorrow is Good Friday, 11 a.m. We're going to be live where we continue the story. And then, of course, Saturday, we're encouraging people to spend some time in personal prayer and reflection, or as a family or an individual going for a prayer walk, however works for you. And then Sunday is Resurrection Sunday, and we'd love to see you at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. And as you're using the journal, whether that's digital or physical, we'd love to see photos. You can send those in to hello@wearebridge.org and let us see some of the ways that you've been engaging this Easter weekend. May the grace of God be over you. We'll see you soon.